So I reached out to my guru coach, kept reaching out, and no response, no response. You know, trying to ask questions in the private groups, no answer, or the answers I would get would be Google it or Google the solution. You know, so I said, okay, I had to just swallow, just say, hey, this is not moving in the right direction. I have to be able to get something, concrete to be able to move forward with it. And also, another thing I was told was that just give the contract back, and the strange thing with that was I was just like, okay, that sounds a little bit too easy to do that with the federal government. So I was just like, it has to be somebody I can reach out to. So back to the clubhouse during pandemic, and I said, I remember these two guys who were on there talking, and they were so.
I get it, and you said something that was true, and it bears repeating. There's a lot of people who jump in class. I was surprised. I'm not calling names. There was a guy who came for me in my comments, and he's running ads and videos. And then I found out he was a student with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm in it for the long run and not short, where I become part of the statistics of, a business failing within the first 3 years of it being open.
Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Curtis A. Merriweather Jr. In 2020, many of you guys know I was named a game changer by the White House Policy Advisor for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and I want to serve as your government contracting coach. Now, the goal of this channel is to help entrepreneurs overcome common business challenges along their entrepreneurial journey. Now, one of the ways that we do this is through education, consultation, and training support services. Now, many of you guys know I have a Master's of Science in Project Management, an MBA, and now a PhD in management. So our training is going to be based on the curation of 26 plus years of government contracting experience plus advanced education. Now, I believe that's one of the things that truly sets our channel apart. I've made those investments in education and experience so you can leverage my education experience and hopefully shorten your learning curve. Now, if you want to work with me, I hope you will go to the 8figuregovcon.com. You'll see the URL on the screen. Go and look at the website. Look at the curated content. I know it's going to be actionable. Our content is for both new as well as seasoned entrepreneurs. Now, if you want to just jump right to the government contracting store, you're welcome to click the link on the screen. Look at the link on the screen, the URL, go to that, and it will help you navigate directly to our government contracting store. Now, before I jump into my topic today, I want to encourage you to subscribe. I want you to smash the subscribe button. I want you to like, I want you to share, and I want you to hit the notification bell. That way, anytime I produce any new content, you'll get a notification so you can see that information as quickly as possible. Now, I have a treat for you all today. We're going to talk about government contracting the right way. I've been seeing your questions and your comments on YouTube. I get your DMs. Let me say thank you all for your super thanks. I appreciate it. You will be seeing a join button soon. We will be creating a new community, giving you exclusive content right here on YouTube. And when you hit the join button that you'll see on your screen in a couple weeks, when you see that join button, it's going to give you access to exclusive content right here on YouTube for a low monthly price of $9.99. So if you're interested in that, you'll be able to take advantage of that really, really soon. Now, in response to all of you all's comments and questions about our approach at 8-Figure GovCon, and our approach is unique, I wanted to bring along one of my students who I am absolutely proud of. And I'm going to let you tell her story. But today, we want to talk about government contracting the right way. Now, as you guys know, social media and YouTube specifically, it's flooded with government contracting content. And let me just say this. I'm not throwing shade at anyone else, but all government contracting content is not created equal. Now, if you've been on our channel for any length of time, you hear the depth and breadth in our government contracting knowledge. So we're not one trick ponies here, not throwing shade at anybody else. But when I am 100% me, and this applies for hopefully other people as well, when I'm 100% me and I'm authentic in who I am, our services are unmatched. You know, there was a reason why we were named the game changer for the White House by the White House in 2020, and not many that I'm aware of. No other government contracting coach can say that. But I don't want to toot my own horn. I want to bring my student in who's going to tell her story today, and she can tell you her experience. But the goal of this is not to throw shade on any other coach in YouTube land. The goal is to provide some insight and what you should be looking at and evaluating when looking for a government contracting coach. Now, we're talking about government contracting here, but I think the lessons that you're going to learn from listening to my student applies to any mentor or coach. So I'm not going to belabor it. I'm going to introduce someone that's new to many of you to the to the platform. So I hope you're ready. All right, so here we are. Let me get ready to bring her on. Hey, Miss Dana.
Hi, Dr. Meriwether. How are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. But thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I'm looking forward to it. Before we jump into some of the questions that I have assembled to make sure we provide the most enriching experience for our subscribers, tell the people briefly who you are and a little bit about your business. Now, specific, I gave Dana instructions. I don't want Dana naming the name of her company, but I do because I want to protect her confidentiality and her privacy. But I do want Dana to tell you a little bit about who she is. So Dana, it's all yours.
All right. Hello. I'm Dana, and I am in federal contracting, an entrepreneur. My company specializes in facility management. Right now, we're working on, through Dr. Meriwether, getting into the technology space with product and services, but mainly services. I've come from a background of substitute teaching and accounting, and the legal field as a legal secretary with a criminal law firm. And so now here I am in the federal space.
Well, that is amazing, and I'm thankful that you have been so willing to share your story. So we're going to get into, because many people, are on YouTube and they're finding out about government contracting. As many of you know, I've been in this space for a long time. I've been doing this for 26 years. My very first job in high school was in government contracting, which kind of makes me unique from that perspective. But how did you first learn about government contracting?
Ooh, okay. So starting from a baby, I learned about government contracting on the local level with my parents and my uncle. Both of them were in landscaping industry, and they worked in with that combination residential and also with the local government, the city. Fast forward in undergrad, I went to I used to always look through Black Enterprise, and I would read a lot of those articles that were people who were in the federal space, and it was very interesting, but it just sounded too complex, so I never dived into it. And fast forward again, we go into the pandemic, and my friend ended up giving me an invite to Clubhouse. And so as I was navigating through Clubhouse, I actually came through, I saw government contracting, and I was just like, oh, well, let me just see what's going on with here. And I fell asleep many a times because your class, along with other individuals, I think it was Mr. Guy, a couple of women who were actually in the federal space that actually worked for a department, an agency, and it was so intense. But it was so interesting. It was so many moving parts to it. So I was just like, this is so interesting. Maybe I need to kind of look into this. And so that brought me into that. But I will say, because I felt like it was so complex, I was like, I stepped away. But of course, we know how like the algorithms go on. Like I started going on Instagram, and then now I start to see this mass marketing of government gurus, and the simplified ones made me jump into it. And so I was just like, okay, maybe I should try this. And I ended up, it was my shout out to my brother. He ended up with getting the course for me. And I was just like, okay, it seems a little bit more simple. And that's how I ended up like really started getting the wheels rolling in that.
Awesome. I'm gonna say this, and my philosophy here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful for those who oversimplify the process because they do remove the fear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful for them. So shout out to all of those who say, hey, there's a way to do this and it's not hard. And it's in government contracting, as you know, it's not hard. There's just a lot of moving pieces and parts. So they do have value in the community. I'm not counting their value. I'm thankful for what they're doing. Our approaches and our philosophies do differ, as Dana will tell you. But I am thankful for them. Okay, so so you learned about so I didn't know this. So I learned something new today. I didn't know your family had a history of government contracting. I did not know.
Yes.
So that's cool. Yeah. Cool. Now, okay, so that's how you learned about it. You stumbled across me on Clubhouse and others, not just me, Clubhouse and others around the pandemic. So around 2021, I think I got off Clubhouse strong. Probably early 22, late 21, just for perspective. So how long have you yourself, so you got exposed to a whole bunch of information during the pandemic, you saw your family members doing this, you got caught up in a lot of the marketing hype that floods the internet from many of us, you got caught up in that, and you found what you thought to be a simplified approach because, I've been dinged. They make this thing hard. I can do this from my home, on my laptop, on the beach. So how long? And I chuckle at this. How long have you been actively in the government contracting space? Because you won a contract. Was it 2022?
2021.
2021. You won a contract. So how long? So that's what. I know this. You're in your first option year.
Yes.
Okay. First option year. So for those who are new to government contracting, most government contracts are awarded in a base year and 4 options. That's normal. And you will see different permutations of that. So base years is what the government is committing to. Option years are just that. They're optional. So Dana's actually just executed her first option year. So congratulations on that process. Okay. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
I got into you sent me, I got a DM from Dana back in, I think, January of this year. And the DMs was basically like, help. I got this contract action, and me and you got onto the phone call. So you can, I don't want to say anything that you're not comfortable with. So you can kind of pick the story up from there, and then we'll talk about some of the other things we want to talk about. So I got this distress DM. And I just thought about it when we're talking, because this was not on our thing to discuss, but I think it's going to be helpful, and we want to keep this organic. So I got this DM distress message from you around January. I didn't look and see when it was. What led to that?
Okay. Actually, it was December.
December, okay.
Yeah, it was actually the first week of December. And I from the information that I got from former class, government contracting class, that I would probably be getting a notice saying that, hey, we're moving forward, going into the new option year. Didn't see you add any money on. Would you like to add that money on now? I'm waiting on that to come. It never came. So now I'm looking through my contract, and the strategy that I used, which was the financial strategy, to secure that contract and be able to have everything working in order, it was short. And I was confused about, okay, so how am I going to be able to handle this contract financially with the partnership that I had? So I reached out to my guru coach, kept reaching out, and no response. Trying to ask questions in the private groups, no answer, or the answers I would get would be Google it or Google the solution. So I said, okay, I had to just swallow, just say, hey, this is not moving in the right direction. I have to be able to get something, concrete to be able to move forward with this. And also, another thing I was told was that just give the contract back, and the strange thing with that was I was just like, okay, that sounds a little bit too easy to do that with the federal government. So I was just like, it has to be somebody I can reach out to. Thought back to the clubhouse during pandemic, and I said, I remember these two guys who were on there talking, and they were so and when I say complex, I'm not saying that it's so hard, because we hear a word and we think that it's so extremely hard and you have to have, all this, Ivy League education to understand it, but it's not. So I ended up logging. I haven't been on Clubhouse in a long time either. So I had to go on there to find, the two guys' names. I saw you and I said, that's his name. Let me see what his Instagram is. Found you. And I was just like, okay, I really don't want to bother him, but let me go ahead. So just out of a step of faith, I reached out and I said, hey, I ended up getting coached on a process to get a contract. This is not a small contract. This is well over, $1 million contract, plus. And I'm in a bind. I really need help. You immediately responded back to me and say, let's do a conference call. Tell me what's going on and let's see how we can move forward. And
that's amazing. You said a couple of things. Wow, we got to just unpack.
Okay.
One you said was, your words were, the pricing strategy was short. I think that's the term you used. What does that mean?
To expound on it, the pricing strategy was just flawed. It was very flawed.
How so?
Well, the thing is that I would have to either go get some more funding to, give to my partner that's we've been partnered with the contract, or I would have to also dip into my portion, like the company portion, to pay them. And the funny thing is that was a strategy that was told to me, is that, hey, if it comes up like this, you may have to go back and dip into, your company's profits and pay that. And that's why, you all need to keep going after one. So if that happens, then you can take profits from your other contract.
Okay,
and I said, okay.
Hold on. So the strategy is, okay, so you have a 7-figure contract. Correct.
Yes.
A 7-figure contract, and the strategy was not, is when because your contract is not profitable, or when you run into challenge, I don't want to put words in your mouth. When you run into challenges, you just dip into your profits to keep that contract coming.
That dip into your profits. And if you need some more money, that's why you need to keep going after a contract, so you can dip into that profit to pay the other one. So it's kind of like a
rob Peter to pay Paul
for the other contract, or just give the contract back.
We won't even talk about giving another contract back, because that's a whole problem in and of itself. Suspension, debarment, civil penalties. But,
yeah.
Okay. From a pricing perspective, and again, no names, none of that. From a pricing perspective, what was the pricing strategy?
The pricing strategy is, number one, the process and the strategy together was go on Sam's. Pick one, go with that, call 20 companies that provide these services, get those 4 quotes, or 12 quotes, but minimize it down to 4. Take the smaller one, and then, that can tell you how you can put your profit in. So the highest to the lowest, but you take that lowest, the company that's given a low quote, and then you can kind of figure out what you put on top of that and then submit it. And then keep going with that same process and strategy for everyone that you do. And in my situation, and from your coaching and mentorship, I found out that is a one size fit all, and that's not how it works in the federal government. You cannot have a one size fit all, approach to it.
No, because that strategy, and I remember we was talking about this, and I remember looking at the phone that day you told me, and I was like, what? Mm-hmm. I told you to do what? Mm-hmm. Go and get 3 quotes, ask them what their price is, and put this nominal fee on top. And my question to you was, what about your cost? What about your direct labor, your friends, your overhead, your G&A, and your profitability? I said, no one talked about this.
Yeah. No, we did not talk about that. We did not talk about that at all. Even with those benefits that you mentioned, when some students would say, hey, well, what if our business needs, insurance, or we need a CPA, or we need something else? It was no. And this just wasn't even from the coach. This would be the students that he would have coaching the class that would say, hey, no, don't spend unnecessary money. And that's a necessary need for your company.
So CPA was being unnecessary.
It was being unnecessary to put into your cost.
Oh, okay. in 2 weeks of vacation and 401k matches and
none of that. That was kind of really, in my opinion, I would say that was put into the corner of being too corporate.
Too corporate. Mm-hmm. What does that mean, Dana? What does it mean to be too corporate?
That is such a loaded question. From my experience and now having something to compare it to, it doesn't work well in this space. And frankly, I don't think it works well in any space. When you talk about not being corporate, you look at companies and how that they have to, run their companies. They have to pay payroll. They have to have insurance. They have to have all these multitude of things to keep it running effectively. And when you're in the federal government, you have to think about the word compliance. And to have all those things that you just mentioned, that's to help it to stay in compliance. Not just, invoicing and, wash, rinsing, and repeat the process. That is not helping you stay in compliance. And when you have a flawed, pricing strategy, it gets you into some murky waters.
That's really helpful. Okay, mm-hmm. We're gonna keep moving because we can talk about a whole bunch of them topics for a whole episode. Okay,
yeah.
So let's keep this moving because I want this to be as effective for as many people as possible. So, let's just move on. Like I said, I'm glad that you found me. I'm just gonna be honest. And you have been an amazing student. Before I get into, I'm gonna ask another off the cuff question that we did not plan because of some things you said. So we reached out and we helped, and I want to say this carefully. We helped you, and if I misspeak, please correct me. We helped you to save a contract that was in jeopardy. Can we talk through that process? How much ever you're willing and comfortable sharing is fine with me. But can we kind of talk through the approach that we kind of help? And you ain't got to go in great detail. But can you talk about what we did to rescue that contract?
One, we started to go through and look and comparing that pricing strategy to say, hey, this is where you went wrong. This is where you should have been. This is where you could have gotten for your company. And now you're just like so under from that, it didn't make sense. So I'm not saying that this is my number for my contract, but I'm just going to give a number to say if you have a contract for $7 million, I'm telling you right now, if you are bringing in a month $500 to $4,000 on a $7 million contract, your pricing strategy is way flawed, and you're probably going to find yourself in the same predicament that I was in. So, aside from that, going on with the pricing strategy, looking through the contracts and understanding the parts, from the small parts of the parts, that hey, we need to be able to balance this to show that your company is doing this work, and hey, we didn't include the unforeseen costs with that's coming up with it to continue the contract. So when you were able to break down those intricate parts that goes in with the pricing, and not with just the management of that, but just the totality of it, that's got the ball moving, where I was able to learn extremely a lot more. And that was in like uh honestly in the first Zoom conference that we had together, and you broke it down so quickly. For me, it was complex, but it was those moving parts that was much needed before I even went after this contract. And I didn't know it at the time, but I didn't realize, hey, this company that I'm partnering with, this is not a small business. This is a large Fortune 500 company. They're on the NASDAQ listing. And I don't even know how to, matriculate through this in order to effectively communicate to them and also to the agency. And you were able to break down those parts to me, coach with me to be able to articulate that problem with the agency, and for them to get an understanding, and the way I was able to convey that to them, we were able to make things happen. And also going through with that meeting, first time meeting with a big five, for a Fortune 500 company. And if I didn't have that mentorship through you, I wouldn't have been able to navigate that. That was a huge meeting, and I did not know the basic stuff beforehand. But when you taught me that, it was able to be smooth, correct things, and get it right back on track.
No, that's amazing, and thank you for sharing it. While you were talking, I did some basic math. Just now, we're going to use your fictitious number.
Okay.
We do know you have a seven. I'm looking at on my calculator. You said a $7 million contract. Now, for those who are new to this space, typically contracts are a base year and 4 options. That's a 5-year contract. So in a year's time, that contract is $1.4 million. Now, we're going to assume that you have some escalation, that we can have a whole conversation about escalation. I think you kind of alluded to earlier that you were, based on how you were taught, you were thinking you're going to pick up the phone and say, hey, you need to up your pricing. And but $1.4 million contract, and in a 12-month period, so 1.4 year, we're going to just keep it flat. Now, you would normally add in escalations. You and I have talked about it, actually add it to your contract. So every month for a $1.4 million contract, that is $116,000. This is just to give the folks some perspective. It's $116,666.67 a month. And you use the number in your fictitious example, how other coaches coach, that if you're doing $4,000 a month, that's a great day. That's the kind of stuff that changes your life and pays bills. But if you get in trouble, you're going to need to pull out of that profitability to take care of these other contracts you're using with some of these strategies that are being taught.
Right.
Of that 116,000, your fictitious example we just made up, you were saying if you were putting $4,000 a month in your pocket, it was a good day. So just some basic math at 4,000, and I'm gonna just do 116. I'm gonna just to round it off. Okay, 116,667. When I say it, we're talking on a monthly basis that we're talking a little less than 4%. Now we know those are horrible profit margins. At $116,000, if you're just putting $4,000 in profit, which, oh, by the way, we have not included insurance payments. We haven't included fringe benefits. You can take time off and have your 2-week vacation. We haven't included retirement, not only for you, but for the potential employees that are supporting this contract.
Right.
We haven't included any of that. So in the event that you run into a problem, there's not enough money. And this is how companies go out of business. But the marketing that you see is amazing. I can't even knock it. Marketing is amazing.
Absolutely.
And people are throwing their money at some of these coaches' feet. And I'm not mad. The marketing is brilliant. I have to give it to you. The market is brilliant. But the marketing is going to get you into a situation that is not sustainable. So I want to see all government contractors succeed, because government contracting changed my life. It's in the process of changing yours. And I don't want to see people get caught up in flashy, great marketing, by the way. I can't say enough. The marketing is nice. But then they sign up for something and a bait and switch happens, because all the effort has been put on the marketing and the messaging, and then the content value is just not there. Now, another question that you bring up that we're going to ask off the cuff. How much content was in the course you took from us at 8 Figure? How many hours? I know how many it is, but is there enough content for you to navigate this?
It is definitely, and I'm speaking from experience of a comparison model. So from my former teachings, it was so quick that I was just like, and again, shout out to my brother and my cousin, where we all got together and got the course. It was so short, and not saying short that isn't good, but if it's not informative and it is something that quite honestly you could have got from the P-Tech, it just wasn't a lot. So then when I reached out to you with your course and went through it, when I tell you it was the complexity process that I needed, because now before, from the other teachings, when I thought I had those aha moments, I found out that, hey, it wasn't fulfilling because it was missing parts to it. It wasn't things to its totality. So when the questions that I did have where, and quite frankly, other students had, and we were kind of still puzzled by like, okay, well, I still don't understand that. I don't get that. And I don't think it was because we just didn't get it. It just, you can't miss a part in something. It's almost just like building a car or just putting something simple that you buy, a biking machine, a Peloton. If you're going to put it together, everything that goes in it, you have to place it in there. So looking at your course, it was, coming from the parts that you broke down with, I believe it's called the Shipley report, which a lot of the Fortune 500 companies utilize. And it's very long, but you broke it down to a more condensed, but still those major parts in each area that needs to take an account for when you're working in the federal space.
That's amazing, and that's what we did. We tried to condense. I mean, we model, and we should be emulating the folks, the companies, the Lockheeds. I keep talking about the same names. These are names that most people know in the government contracting space. The Lockheed Martins, the Raytheons, the GDITs. There's a reason why these companies have been around for decades, and some for more than a century. So there's nothing new, as they say. My grandmother used to say, "There's nothing new under the sun." So we got to leverage those best practices. And when people try to overly simplify, it makes me nervous. And it makes me feel like they're hiding something. And I'm thinking a lot of instances, I don't think none of the, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. I don't think none of these people are fundamentally bad people. I really don't. I just think that they just don't know enough. And they just haven't had enough time in field. And I think at some point you see a shift where I think they get, and this is and I might be being way more optimistic than I should be. I think they get into a space genuinely trying to help people. I really do. And I believe that the money starts showing up, and I believe that the marketing increases, but the proficiency and the competency in the space is not keeping pace.
Exactly.
And because this thing has gotten so, so much behind it, you can't slow the train down.
Right.
And so now they're just going along to get along and just hoping to get through. So, like I said, I don't think none of these people are bad. I don't think anyone started off with bad intentions.
Absolutely.
Even though there may not be bad intentions, bad things are happening to people. You and I know some personal stories about that and people who kind of went through this process. But let's keep moving.
Okay.
So can you tell me, I think you kind of talked about this already. I was going to ask you, can you tell me some of the pros and cons that come to mind working with us versus other programs?
For me, it was the and I may segue into something you may ask later, but the thing for me was that I'm big on a process, and it's not so much as, because we play into like, college education, and it is important. I never run away from that. I think that you have to have that education in order to navigate in any industry that you are in, but especially something of the federal government. So to me, it was understanding that I don't need to just look at a pricing sheet and the scope of work. I need to look at that contract in its totality. I need to look at, the FARs is so huge. So like every FAR is not going to be in every contract, but it may be like specific ones that are in there. So you need to look at that and understand it, and not even just you understand it because you don't have a legal degree or legal background. You need to be able to reach out to a government contract attorney. They do exist. Just like doctors, attorneys specializes in different works of law, and there are attorneys that work in government contracting. And so when I was looking, at going through your class and how you were explaining that, hey, you need to be able to, allocate, this amount to having that attorney on, because you don't have to have that attorney on payroll, but you need to be able to have some money on the side to say, hey, if something comes up, let me be able to reach in to this government contracting attorney to be able to help me to stay in compliance. Or if something comes up, I'll be able to allow them to handle that for me, because we have to realize this is the federal government. The FARS is written by a group of attorneys, not just anybody. It's the group of attorneys and a council. Part of that council, I believe, is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like the DOD, which is like the top up there for the federal government. So if the government has those people in place for something of how they want to run something that they've been running for decades, you need to have that on your side too. So that was, started ringing as that was a con that I didn't have in the last teaching, so that was in a part that was important with it. Also, that was a con in the other one that now is a pro now with under your teaching. The con before was just go on Sam, find a contract, find your subcontractors, call 20 of them, which a lot of students that became a burnout for them because it was it's a strategy, but it's a burnout strategy, and it can have you in, just to me, it's not going to bring value not only to not to the agency, but to yourself as an entrepreneur, and to have that leadership skill to understand to condense that down. So the pro in with you is you're like, hey, you all need to have tunnel vision. It's a focus. You can always grow, matriculate into other industries, but let's start with a base set first. And then as you get, learning how to manage in different industries. Because again, it's not a one size fit all. If you are over here and you're working with, food, but then you get a contract for missiles, and then you get a contract for, other type of stuff, you're just all over the place. And if the only thing that you're adding value to, from your partnership to the agency to the department is invoicing, how are you really pivoting your learning, skill and your leadership skill with going down, further, like you say, when you're able to provide, start providing jobs, becoming to hire people to be able to say, hey, this is how this role is run effectively. You won't know because all you can tell is send an invoice. And although that may be a perfect, great dream for somebody else and they are applying that, and hey, no, do what you do. But I feel like to add value to yourself as an entrepreneur, that it's very important for you to understand that part. Even if like you get into the tech space, you may not know 100% of technology, but with your partnership, and if you're learning at least 10% of it, you're adding value to your partnership, to the agency, to the government, and to yourself. And honestly, what a lot of people take out of with the federal government, you're adding value to the taxpayers' money. Because at the end of the day, the federal government is a steward of the taxpayers, and everybody needs to add some value other than something that I always hate the saying that everybody and their mama can do it, but yeah, everybody and their mama can send an invoice. But what is the other value that you are doing to help keep those agencies and departments running effectively and, making America great with the working?
No, that's important. And you hit on something that I think I imply, but I don't always say explicitly. Mm-hmm. A lot of these strategies will put some money in your pocket, some. Mm-hmm. And you kind of gave us some insight on how little that was in comparison to the overall scheme. It's not, you shouldn't be doing government contracting and you're making minimum wage, trying to maintain the contract because all the profitability is gone. That's what a lot of unassuming students have signed up for, not knowing. But with that aside, we do have to be adding value. But one of the things I envision for you and the rest of our 8-figure community is that you guys are going to grow robust businesses and make your money on the exit. I think there's been this illusion that's been sold that, oh man, you're going to get rich while being a government contractor. Now, government contracting will make your lifestyle very comfortable. I'm not going to lie. I am a recipient of that. However, we make our money on the exit. So here's the reality. You win a $20 million contract tomorrow. You're not going to keep all that money, especially if you have employees. You're going to pay out some amount of profitability. But you should put $2 million on the bottom line once everything is said and done, at least. And then, of course, I teach some strategies on how we can even maximize that. Because by law, the federal government is completely okay with us making 8 to 12% profit. But there's some things we can legally do that can even maximize that by playing games with our direct labor and our fringe pools and there's other creative ways we can do to maximize our profitability. Now, if you're in the product space, you're going to see even higher profitability if you do some things right. And we've got whole strategies we could talk about that. So I don't want to talk about that here. But I really want to help. My vision is to help build strong, robust, secure companies that are going to be acquisition targets later, so that you can have the $20 million payday, so you can have the $50 million payday. The reality is we make our money when we exit. And I think a lot of the programs today are very short-sighted, very narrow-minded. And I'm going to put a couple of dollars in your pocket today and won't $5,000 change your life. A lot of that's the marketing that's happening. But the reality is if we build robust companies that someone else wants and is willing to pay a premium for, my wealth advisors will tell you $20 million cash money after you bought all your toys will have you set for life. But with a lot of the strategies that are being deployed in the government contracting space, that's just not possible. Now, I think the strategy we teach, that's more of a reality. But I digress. Let's keep. That's one of the things that really pains me is because people get caught up in, I got to get into government contracting, and then not set up correctly to see that $50 million, that $100 million. I got a friend who sold his business for $249 million. Windfall. Now, I'm gonna say this: that particular friend, y'all don't know who he is. That particular friend grew a $40 million business, but because a large business wanted to be in the space so badly, this was years ago. They bought that $40 million business for $249 million. You say that ain't even humanly possible. I can show you the news article. Real. I know the CEO personally. But why did they buy it? Because he got a contract vehicle that was priced appropriately. It had $1 billion of contract ceiling left, and he only spent a fraction of it. This big business said, if we get a hold of that contract, we can make X. And because they were willing to do that, they were willing to pay a premium. Now, contract had $1 billion ceiling. So if they know that contract had growth of $1 billion, $249 million was a drop in a bucket compared to another $750 million in total profit or total revenue that they were going to be able to make. And that was a calculation that a large business, if I call the name, you guys would know who it is, made. And that's what we're trying to do in our course. We want you to eat good today. We want you to have profitability. We want you to, if you're an 8A company, we want you to be able to hit the thresholds and what it is that program allows you to make from a revenue perspective. But I'm more concerned about your long-term profitability and eventual exit. I'm not concerned about the one contract for multi-millions of dollars. What are we going to do in sustain? But I got on my soapbox. I'm sorry. So based on what you know today, this is the $100,000 question. Based on what you now know, what would you do differently if you were looking for a government contracting coach and a mentor today? Based on what you know, kind of your before and after story, what would you tell our subscribers that they should be on guard for if they were where you were 2.5, 3 years ago?
Okay, just my experience, and I have to be honest with you. Like I said before earlier, when I first got back into it on Clubhouse, and I was listening to the process that you and the other individuals who were working at government agencies and also doing government contracting, it seemed like a long process. And when compared to that process to the IG marketing, hey, you can get in it. This is, you can, my students are winning them back to back 5 in 2 weeks or whatever. I would have rather the long process because you get the knowledge, and that's so important. And I think people kind of underestimate knowledge, because they think about the money first, and hey, who doesn't want to make a lot of money? But in order to keep it sustainable, you have to understand the different parts of the process. When problems come up, and problems are always going to come up, do you have the foundation? Is the government contracting mentor giving you that foundation, and not just, an oversimplified strategy that is not going to work for everything? Like, it may be working now, but it's not going to work long term. And I think, we have to understand that it's, it's really okay to take that process. It's no different than when you were in K through 12 or through, first year of college to fourth year, in law school for 3 years. There is a process that is been here since the beginning of time. And that knowledge is important. And like, centered around knowledge. I don't remember it right off the bat, but like one of my favorite quotes is from James Madison. And he talks about how knowledge is the one that will obliterate ignorance. And in order, if you want to be a governor of yourself, which is entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur on your own company, leading, 100 or plus whatever people working under you, employees working under you, you need that knowledge. And that's the only way that you'll be able to matriculate into, even if you don't stay in this space long, if you want to move into other spaces, that foundation is going to move into all industries, all sets of business. And so you really need to, look for that, and not just quick way, quick way, quick way, quick way. And then when you later down the road, you don't know anything. You can't get into those seminars with the DOD and with the Department of Energy, and you're talking to these individuals in this space. I promise you, when you're around them, they do not want to just hear that you're invoicing. They do not want to hear that you are not doing the work, you're not seeing the work. They want to know what's your value, because the federal government, they want to work with small businesses. They also want small businesses to partnership with larger businesses and vice versa. So you really need to sit back and ask, what is it that you want out of this space? And how do you want to grow yourself? I think that's just, I can't, push that enough. How do you want to grow yourself as an entrepreneur? And um, it has to be on a knowledge scale. You can't get away from that.
No, I think that's amazing. I think that's key. And I think, and I'm gonna say it, everyone wants, the maximum result for minimum benefit. So with minimal output, I get it. I'm not even mad. But I just wanted to show kind of the other side of that. Now, that's all the questions I had to ask. Is there anything that I did not ask you that I should
Um, no, I think that covers it. I once again, at the end of the day, someone who wants to go on the entrepreneur path, you have to say what fits right for you. I've been able to have a comparison, and what came at in the beginning stage, it did not fit right for me. I need to be able to have a process to put things together and be able to have, like, okay, that goes with that. I can understand how they're able to get this contract, and now the numbers make sense on that end. When I was doing the research, it didn't make sense, to me, until I got in your course. And I just think that you have to, at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for you. But to me, if you want to do it the right and the legal way, don't take the shortcut. Deal with the process. All the greats in industry, they had a process. Even Michael Jordan, he wasn't the best player at first, but he put in the time. LeBron James, he put in the time. Steph Curry, he put in the time. Even when you go back and you can look at Oprah Winfrey with her, her first interview, it just, how it got better over time. It was a process, and it didn't happen overnight. And to me, that uh, journey, that race, will be so much fulfilling, rather than getting something overnight, but you're not learning anything. And I can't stress enough, you're not putting the value into yourself as an entrepreneur.
thank you for sharing that. Now that's amazing. Well, this has been an amazing interview.
Mhm.
Thank you for being so gracious with your time to share with us and being very vulnerable. I'm really
Mhm.
appreciative. And I want to say that I'm personally proud of you. I've seen the growth
Thank you.
over the last 3 months, almost 4 months,
Mhm.
actually in April.
Mhm.
I've seen the growth. And I remember last week when you had that major meeting with your one of your subs, a major sub who happens to be a large business,
Mhm.
and you handled it gracefully. It went well. You
Mhm.
prepared. I
Mhm.
like students who listen
Mhm.
and make me feel like, okay, I am being heard. Because you get
Mhm.
a lot of students, they want to do their own thing, or some people come in with their own notions because of maybe a different philosophy. But I really,
Mhm.
really want to see my students win. And when I see your phone, when I see your number hit my phone, I get happy
Mhm.
because I've seen the growth, I've seen the progression. You've grown as an entrepreneur. We
Mhm.
we restructured your contract, so you're making some more money now. I'm happy about
Mhm.
that.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to the evolution in your personal journey, and
Mhm.
I know government contracting, if you stay with it, and I know you are, it's going
Yes.
to change your life like it has
Mhm.
mine. So
Yes.
I just want to hand you your flowers while you're here, and
Thank
tell the
you.
world I am super happy to be your coach and your mentor. And it's stories like yours that makes me want to do this.
Mhm.
Because me and my wife talk about, we don't have to teach. We've done well. We don't use teaching as a way to make money. God has been good
Mhm.
to my family. But this is my way of giving it, pouring it forward. we charge, and so people say, well, if you're so passionate about it, why don't you just give it for free? Because I did that in the past, and people who don't normally pay don't give you the value. So when you put a little bit of esteem to the price, it normally solidifies their commitment. But it warms my heart to see what you're doing and see the growth that you're having. And I'm so super excited about your future. And I just wanted to publicly praise you and tell you you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what you do in the years and months to follow. So thank you so much.
It's through great mentorship. You can't put a price on that. And I understand that, we're like since the pandemic, a lot of people had that little short change. But I've been in courses where I've heard students say, I spent my rent money for this, or, I use my savings for this. And if you're going to do that, you need to make sure that, that coach is going to be able to hold your hand, but you're learning too. But you got to do the work too. You have to, learn what is being taught to you, and that it's a detailed process, so that when it comes to that point where you come to a problem or something that, just comes up in your business, your mentor has taught you the right process and a strategy where you're able to say, okay, no, I know I don't have to always reach out to them. You can say, oh, okay, no, I was able to do this and move in a better direction with whatever problem that you're dealing with. So I say to people, I understand, that it can be the money problem, but to me, at the same time, if you look through and you see the education background, the connection background, and you see what that value can bring to you, you're going to get that 3 times plus over, and it's well worth it.
No, that's now I'm gonna say this. It's very, very. I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. I'm quite okay with that. But what do you think the ideal 8-figure GovCon student looks like? I think you embody that. So what do you think that student looks like? Because I'm not everybody's solution, and I'm quite fine with that.
To me, I think that, like I said, I can only go on experience. You have to be that student that comes in and knows that mentor, that professor, they are a practitioner in that field. So you have to be willing to listen and learn. Be a learner. Bring that drive in there too. And not look for I read this. You can't be a know-it-all. You have to be that person that says that I want to be in a room full of people who know more than me, so that I can pivot in my success. Because if you're walking in a room and you know more than the people that you're in the room with, you're not going to grow. So that's, to me, as a student, you have to be willing to be the student. It is okay to be the student. It's okay to be a student if you're a student for 1 to 4 years or whatever. I see too many people seeing the quick way with this, and they're saying, okay, well, now I can teach. No, you can't. Be honest. Be an honest person. Come in, and say, I'm willing to learn this process to a T, so that when I'm saying that I'm a practitioner of this space, I'm not leading people into darkness. I can have them true, aha moments that helps them to pivot themselves and their business. That's the type of student that you need to be, a true student, and not try to be the teacher coming in to teach the teacher.
I get it. And you said something that was true, and it bears repeating. There's a lot of people who jump in class. I was surprised. I'm not calling names. There was a guy who came for me in my comments, and he's running ads and videos. And then I found out he was a student with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I understand it's being excited of knowing this information, right, and that you applied it and you were able to win 20 plus contracts. But then and like I say, go with the coach that you want to go with.
Right.
But if you truly have, we're right now, and I'm an older millennium, but they put these little things on older millennium, young millennium. But I think we are in this social media space where it's just fast, quick, hurry. We want to be 20 under 20, right, 30 under, whatever.
Right. 40
And we
under
put,
40.
40 under 40 and stuff. And we don't think that, hey, when we, every billionaire didn't become a billionaire in their 20s. There are a lot of billionaires you don't know that became billionaires in their mid 40s, and so it's being honest with yourself of what do I really want. If it's about the money, you can make money anywhere.
Right. You don't have to do this.
Yeah. You don't have to do this, but if you really want to, I can stress that word enough, value to yourself at the end of the day. And then if you are going out to be a practitioner of this field and mentoring, say, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I've been through the bad parts on government contracting and the good government contract. So you just have to be an honest person, because trust me, when I won my first one, I had so many students, fellow students in the class that were reaching out to me that were like, well, what did you do differently? Da, 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 da. I'm like, hey, no, maybe you need to reach back out to the coach. I just went over what was in that class, but I was honest with them that I can't tell you, I can't mentor you, because I'm still in the mentor phase. I'm still in the mentee phase, right? I mean, the mentee phase right now with you is still learning. So I think that, just people have to be honest with going into this entrepreneur, because there's so many moving parts to it. 9 to 5 is not that way over on entrepreneur. You are going to have to put in some hours, so you have to be honest with yourself when in any path, not just with the federal government. You have to say, hey, if this is what I want to do, I'm in it for the long run, and not short where I become part of the statistics of, a business failing within the first 3 years of it being open.
That was helpful. Thank you so much, Dana. I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much for your time today. Well, my good people in government contracting land, I just want to thank you for taking time to watch this video. I hope that you found that conversation helpful. I learned something just hearing parts of Dana's story that I had not heard previously. And this is just, this is not to, again, this video is not to shame anyone else. We didn't call any names. That was not the purpose of this video, but really to provide an informative guide so you can be careful. And I recognize that I may not be the coach for you, and I'm completely fine with that. I want you to find success wherever it may be. And I just want you to find ways to, because if you're on this channel, you're probably either in the government contracting space or you're thinking about it. And I just want to help. I want to allow others to tell you their testimonies so you can find success in whatever it means for you. But success cannot be limited just to money. I redefine my definition of success. I'm gonna leave you these closing words. My definition of success is not money. Many of you heard my story. I made a lot of money, and money did not prevent some major catastrophes that happened in my personal life. So I had to go back and redefine success. Success is finding your purpose, maximizing your potential, and being the biggest benefit or blessing to as many people as possible. That is now my definition of success. So if you've won multi-million-dollar contracts, great. But what does the rest of your life look like? So one of the things I hope that I'm teaching my students, not just the art and craft of entrepreneurship and government contracting, but how to be a total person. Matter of fact, in my mentorship group, I met with my mentees last night, and we talked about goal setting, spirit, soul, body, and interpersonal. I know a lot of wealthy people who make tons of money, and although they may be successful in business, their personal life is in ruins. And that's one of the things I hope by example that I'm living out in front of my students. But let me get off my soapbox. If you have not already smashed that subscribe button, I need you to smash the subscribe button, like, share, hit the notification bell so you can be apprised of any time I produce any more content like this. And I got a great episode lined up for you guys next week already. We've already pre-recorded. It's going to be amazing. Government contracting for barbers and cosmetologists. So you can look at the premiere, definitely tune in. We want to produce content that you can't find everywhere else. Got a lot of experience. I just want to share that with you guys. And hopefully some of you after this conversation will decide to come along this learning odyssey with me as I mentor and coaching your government contracting success. But I'm finna get out of here. I'll see you guys in future videos, and I want you to go back and watch some other videos. Till next time.